Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dill, Lincoln Riley, and USC. They go on the road against Illinois, and I don't think there's a better way to put it than they just got bullied, specifically along the lines of scrimmage. This was a defensive line deal. I ran my mouth all week saying that USC was the better line of scrimmage football team heading into this matchup. That is not how it played out Saturday afternoon. And here's and we said the exact same thing late last night about Florida State, Dell. You can't find difference makers in the transfer portal on the defensive line. Like you went out and got a guy like Keyshawn Sylvia, went out and got a guy like Jai Jarrett. Both of them non-factors, both of them actually very bad in this football game, Dill. If you want to have elite line of scrimmage play specifically on the defensive line, you got to get those bodies out of the high school ranks. Now, to USC's credit, that is what they're doing in the 2026 cycle, but it wasn't nearly enough Saturday afternoon against Illinois. And I don't want to get up here and just be super negative because there are some positives, right? USC went on the road to a top 25 team, down some of your best players on your roster, right? Elijah Page didn't play. Kamari Ramsey didn't play. Jacoby Lane barely played. You went down 14 in the second half. You battle back to take a lead. There are a lot of positives. There's also a lot of negatives that we got to talk about as well. To the USC fans, number one, thank you guys. You know, through the highs and the lows of the last couple of years, the USC fans continue to show a ton of love to the boys. If y'all don't even worry about subscribing, more importantly, would like to hear how the USC fans are feeling after this football game. Probably can tell there's a little frustration in my voice because I was flat out fooled. Like, I thought this defensive line was legit heading into this matchup. They were non-factors. I will give you the T-box here. Biggest takeaways from this 32-34 loss on the road to Illinois.
Well, and they couldn't create negative plays because I think you knew there was a bit of a hole in terms of guys who could just take on double teams and be tough.
Sure.
I know you bring in Keyshawn Silver and Jai Jarrett. There's a reason those guys were in the portal. I mean, they just haven't been great football players in their career. And again, it's kind of what bore out today. Like, you need guys who are tough physical players. You just don't really have that. And the kicker is you didn't really get enough from your defensive ends in creating negative plays. Because I do think at this point, that's what USC probably needs to rely on, because I just think personnel-wise, they probably don't have the guys in the middle to just play that sort of like.
We talked about, we knew the secondary was a problem. Like, the secondary has not been good through the first couple of weeks. Now, we looked at this match and said, I don't know if it matters, right? Because you thought USC's defensive line could really impact the quarterback. Dill, it started with this. You didn't have that many opportunities to pin your ears back and get after the quarterback because you couldn't stop the run on first and second down. It's all fun and games to talk about rushing the passer and getting sacks. But if you're consistently in 2nd and 5, consistently in 3rd and 2, you can't really pin your ears back and get after the quarterback. And that's kind of what you saw, Dill. I think you are exactly right. You brought in Keyshawn Silver. You brought in Jai Jarrett to be those big physical two-gappers in the middle of the defensive line. You needed those kind of bodies.
And to be quite frank, I would have taken the effort Floyd Boucard was giving you over what those two, because at least like he's getting off the ball. I know he's probably just got to like fill himself out and get up to like
he's gonna be a good player,
Big Ten size, but at least like he's playing the right way. And even G-Day, like another guy who again probably still needs some physical development, but like you can't have guys who just like, yeah, they're big, but they're really slow. They don't come off the ball, and when they have to take double teams on, they were getting moved like 5 yards off the ball pretty consistently. You just can't have that effort from those two.
I 100% agree. And then eventually you just kind of stop playing Jai Jarrett. You stop playing Keyshawn Silver. Then you're asking a guy like Devin Tompkins to do that. And look, I think Devin Tompkins is a good football player. When Illinois is just running inside zone at you and duo and double team, and it's not Devin Tompkins' game. He's getting moved around as well. I do think you're right, though. And the USC fans don't want to hear this right now, and I get it. I wouldn't want to hear it either. I think they'll be okay because I like Floyd Boucard a lot, and I like Jakeem Stewart a lot, and I like Jayden Maiava a lot.
Jakeem was another guy who, again, like at least firing off the ball, getting into that, like doing something that was a little bit disruptive, opposed to like kind of your old transfers who just weren't doing much.
Sure, and look, you're gonna fill those kids out. They're still young. You know, Jakeem Stewart should be in high school. Floyd Boucard barely played any football. And Floyd Boucard 4 years ago was playing hockey in Canada, Dill. He's going to be a good football player. Jayden Maiava is going to get better. You already saw Jayden Maiava get better. So I do think USC is going to be okay, but I guess here's where I'll stop with the defensive line. years of not recruiting the line of scrimmage at the high school ranks the right way, it caught up to you in this football game, right? You can't just recruit one good class and expect to be good along the lines of scrimmage. You tried to backfill in the portal, but look, Keyshawn, that's probably the best example, Dill. Keyshawn Silver was one of the best interior defensive linemen, or at least thought to be one of the best interior defensive linemen that was available in the portal. Just a really non-factor in this football game. In fact, he was probably net
I was going to
negative.
say, like, a factor in very
Yeah.
much the wrong way.
And then in turn, when you got your defensive line getting moved around, your linebackers, I don't think the linebackers were any good anyways. Like in this game, they didn't really have a chance because they had so much traffic in their lap. When your interior defensive line is getting moved 5 yards off the football, it's hard for Eric Gentry to put a fingerprint on the football game. Not having Kamari Ramsey is probably another monster story. I think they started Hassan Longstreet's older brother, Kevin Longstreet. Illinois was just absolutely picking him in the first half. Then you go to a true freshman in Kendarius Riddick. Dill, if there's one positive from this football game, the young talent on this football team, it can play, man. Like, I thought Riddick, as a true freshman that's really played no football, I thought he was pretty damn solid. Got to figure out the boundary cornerback spot, because I don't think you got guys that can play. And here's the thing. I don't even know if Illinois' wide receiver room's all that good. Right? You're going to see better wide receiver rooms over the next couple of weeks. The good news, it's an easier position to address in the portal, but USC is going to have to address the heck out of that in the offseason if they wanted to get any better. That was kind of the story. I mean, you just couldn't get off the field, man. It felt like, and I'm sorry I'm rambling a little bit, and we'll flip to the offense because I do want to talk about the offense a little bit. It felt like you were getting hunted all game. Like there was never was Danton Lynn the hunter as a play caller on defense. It was always getting hunted. It was always getting picked on because you just didn't create any negative plays. You didn't put yourself in opportunities where a second and third and long where you could get really aggressive with scheme. That's kind of the storyline. I mean, the only times Illinois didn't score is when they were fumbling the football or moving backwards with penalties. All right, offensive side of the football, Mekhi Levin's one of the best players in all of college football. Positive vibes. Jayden is a very, very good quarterback that's going to keep you in every single game because he can play. And Dill, here's the thing that I loved a lot from what I saw. Jayden lost his rhythm in a meaningful way in the beginning of that second half. He threw a pick, then he missed a bunch of throws. It started to look like the Jayden that we saw at times in 2024, and then he flips a switch, and he kind of becomes a gamer, and he leads you down on a drive that you take the lead. You want to talk about that?
I
Scoring
was
that
gonna
early?
say, like, the battle for Jayden, like, was really impressive because you are right. There was, like, that right after that pick, like, it did feel like he got a little rattled, wasn't
Yes.
particularly accurate the drive
Yeah.
after, but he kinda, like, rallied that team a little bit. So that is at least, like, again, going in the right direction in terms of, like, you do feel like you have a quarterback who I'm sure will be back next year that
Yep.
you kinda can believe in a little bit because that
Yeah.
was a really good performance, I thought, for the most part.
And if Jayden's not back, you got us on Longstreet. You're going to be just fine at the quarterback spot, right? And I thought the young offensive line was, I mean, you go down your starting center and you were already down your left tackle. Oh, one thing, we know why John Ray Reed wasn't starting. He's
Right.
not good enough. And though that's such a sloppy, lazy, ineligible downfield on that touchdown. That was a beautiful trick play that Lincoln Riley drew up. And John Ray Reed's just lazy, man. It's just lazy lack of focus. If you do that, that's why hey, is John Reed maybe a more physically gifted center than Killian O'Connor? Yeah, probably. He's a great looking center, but man, that you can't have that mistake. And he wasn't great in terms of pass pro either.
No,
I'm
a lot
trying
of
to think.
things are right up the middle from him. Like, you gotta be better. You
Yes.
gotta be able to pick up stunts. You gotta be
And
able to win your one-on-ones.
I'll say this, that you started seeing some busts in pass pro when why was Killian O'Connor your starting center? Probably because he knows a little bit more about getting this offensive line in the right pass protection sets, right? Because you saw that kind of go in the opposite direction when John Ray Reed came in. Here's another storyline. I do want to talk about one other thing. You can't go on the road and fumble the football on your first drive and then play like that on defense for the first couple. And then Lincoln Riley dials up a touchdown. You have a stupid, ineligible receiver down the field. You can't make those mistakes against a quality Illinois football team. I don't think Illinois is great, but they're not a bad football team where you can afford to go on the road and make those kind of
Well, and
mistakes.
especially because, like, just in my like USC realistically isn't necessarily good enough across the board. Like, there's still big holes in this roster. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
there are some spots that are elite,
Really
Like
good.
Ty Lemon, you said it. He's really good. Wayman Jordan, like aside from the fumble, really, really good. But there are certainly some holes where, yeah, you got to be able to play a little bit cleaner because you just don't have like those erasers, especially on defense. It feels
Yep.
like to play any sort of sloppiness on
Yeah.
offense.
Do you want to talk about Lincoln Riley taking that shot to the end zone to take the lead with 2 minutes
I think
left?
you're like I get in hindsight that's frustrating, and I
Yeah.
get, like you knew your defense wasn't playing well, but I
Yeah.
also like you got to score. Like you can't like play around with that because if you don't score, then the game's over.
Yeah, I agree, but it's like how many USC fans had confidence that defense was going to get a stop with 2 minutes left? Like if I'm Lincoln Riley, I've watched three and a half quarters of that football game. Like I know my defense ain't going to come up for me, and so I feel like, hey, we're moving the football. We can run the football the way we want to run it. I mean, I'm looking at the rushing numbers. How well did USC run the football?
Well,
3.7
look,
yards a
if
time.
you get a one-on-one matchup with Mackay, are you not
Gotta
going to
take
take it? It's like I
Yeah.
feel like you have to play that way because,
The
like, yeah,
thing
you
is,
could
like,
get
you
it
take it
one-on-one.
and Mekhi Lemon's gonna catch it, but you leave 2 minutes with 3 timeouts to this Illinois offense, and they only need 3 points. I feel like we all knew what was gonna
Yeah, but
happen.
that just feels so nitpicky, and I get, like,
I
you'd be
agreed. I
frustrated because
agreed.
you lose the game, but, like,
I agreed.
I mean, he called the play, they scored, like, that
Yep.
is what they needed
Sure.
to do on that drive.
Yep.
Again, you run it 2 straight times, get no yards because 'cause they're playing heavy box with their
Yeah.
safeties up, like,
Fair.
well, then we're looking at 3rd and 10, that
Yeah.
spot can't be
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And we shouldn't even be having this conversation because you should be able to have confidence with your defense that they can get you a stop when they need to. And the sad part is you just kind of just knew they weren't going to come up with it. Can't stop the run, can't get after the pass, you can't cover on the outside. Dan Lynn's got it. Here's USC's going into a bye week, and then I believe you play Michigan. You got to figure out a defense that you like to run, and you know that there are some certain gaps in the personnel. This is a team that can still win a lot of football games, still, especially in the Big Ten. 'Cause I don't know how many offenses can score with USC, but you got to figure out a defense that you can make this thing work with because you just didn't have it, and you got beat in all 3 phases on the defensive side of the football. Frustrating one. I certainly was buying a lot of stock into USC, getting really bought into what they were on the defensive line, and it was not good enough. And we'll see. Is this a one-off, and does this defensive line get back to playing good football, or was this just, hey, when USC plays a solid offensive line, is this what it's going to look like? That's what we got to figure out over the next couple of weeks. All right. Let's pause it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. To the USC fans, appreciate you guys. Y'all always show a ton of support, whether we win or lose. And so appreciate you guys. And we're gonna talk to y'all later. Peace.